This tutorial, we're going to look at the ContentAware tool. There's quite a few things you can do with the ContentAware tool. There's kind of 3 different ways I found that I play with it, and let's go through that right now. I've opened up a picture here called Jamaica, just to show you that how we open that up. There's my picture. I click and drag it over top of the Photoshop icon. It opens up, or I could have went to File and Open and found my picture. Either way, here it is. What I like to do is it's locked right away because it's the only layer there. I'm going to click on that lock and get rid of it. Not that it matters right now, but for the most part, it allows me to work with it. It's not locked and whatever. So here I am. I'm going to start playing around with it. So first, what you might notice in some of your images, like, oh, there's a thumb that accidentally put there. Hey, that happens. Well, let's get rid of it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my polygonal tool, and I'm just going to click and drag all over and even outside that, and just select that area that I no longer want there. So what I could do is there's a few different ways to play. I'm going to go to Edit and ContentAware Fill. And now with the ContentAware Fill, what it does, it opens up a dialog box. And this is great because it allows me to now play a little bit further. Instead of what we used to do with the ContentAware Fill, it would just automatically do it for us. Photoshop would use its AI, and it would say, well, these are the pixels I want to use. Now I can tell Photoshop which pixels I want it to use and which ones I don't want it to use. So right now on the right hand side, it shows me the color green means it's the area that it's going to sample from. If I want to change it, I can to the excluded area, but no, it's fine. If I want to change the opacity, but no, that's roughly about right. And I'm going to be able to sample from all layers, but there's only one layer. There's other bunch of settings here too, but I just don't need them for now because I'm going to be able to see this preview area, which is great. It's going to show me what it looks like. So right now, without touching anything, without adding any or taking any away, if I paint more green on, I can just paint with this brush, and it allows me to paint more area. Now, not much is changing. Well, a little bit is changing here as I paint more, or if I take more away. So right now I'm holding down Option to paint more, and I just paint normally to take away the areas I don't want. And now we look over here as it previews, yeah, it's turning out quite a bit better. It's quite nice. Now this is just a start. If you're still not too happy with it, you could always go back into your main picture, mask it out, do some clone stamping, whatever, but it did a really good job so far of getting rid of this. So painting on the green or taking off the green, I'm saying this is the area I want you to sample from, and these areas I do not want you to sample from. So I'm just gonna put an output to a new layer and just say, okay. So there I go. Get rid of my selection by Command D or Select, deselect. And now I have my thumb gone, and it did a really good job of putting it all together. It kept my horizon very nice, the skyline, good nice gradient, and it added some really good textures here. And if I want, once again, to play around with these textures to make them even more realistic or blend them better, I could use the clone stamp tool, but I'm not going to do that just yet. The next thing I want to do is move some things around, change some things. So I'm going to go into using the ContentAware Fill again, but using with the fill command. So I'm just going to select this sign. I want to get rid of this sign. I don't like it there. It's important on the island, but for me in this picture, I just want to get rid of it. So clicking on that, I just want to get rid of it, and I want it to blend in, and I just want Photoshop to do the blend for me. I don't need to go back to Edit and ContentAware Fill. I'm going to see if Photoshop could do it itself. So I'm just going to select that with the rectangle marquee, right-click and go to Fill, or go to Edit and go to Fill. And now I have a bunch of options here with this box, and I could say by default it's on ContentAware. I can fill it with different things: foreground color, background color, black, 50%. I'm just going to say ContentAware. Color adaptation is fine. Everything is fine. I'm just going to say OK. And there we are. Oh, wrong layer. My apologies. Let's do it again. Edit, Fill. Make sure you're on the right layer. Fill, do the same thing. OK. And does a really good job of getting rid of that. Maybe I could play around with that a little bit, but that's not a big deal. It did a good job of getting rid of that. Beautiful. Now another thing I want to do, let's potentially say I want to move this cloud, maybe move the boat and move it into a different area. So there's a couple ways. One way I could do it that I'm going to show you is this ContentAware tool, the Move tool. It's under the Spot Healing brush. So if I right click and go to the ContentAware Move tool, I can now select something. With this selection, is kind of like a lasso tool. It's very free form. I'm just going to select the boat, and the people are on the boat, just like that. And that's it. And now I have a bit of a control panel up here. If I move it, it will move it and it will not duplicate it. If I extend, it will duplicate what I've done. So I want to move this. So I'm just going to move it and look at the structure and the color as I play with this. Sample all layers, transform on drop. I'm just going to click inside my selection and drag a little bit away, wherever I want to put it. Now, if I zoom in, I press enter, my selection is still there, and it changed it up a little bit. Now, number one, it did remove it from there. Perfect. I could play around with that horizon a little bit, but it's pretty good. Now, it did play around with how it blended it into its new area. So number one, it unblended from this area and put in new pixels, which was great. And it put it here and blended it in a nice way too. But what I can do now is play around, even with it still selected, I can play around with the structure and how well it works. If I want to bring it up and see how the structure works of the boat and how it changes, and I can keep playing with it up into I believe 10, no, I believe 7 there is the highest it goes. Okay, so what it was, I was pretty happy with its original at 1. Now I could also play around with the color. Not only does Photoshop take in the textures and the patterns and all that, it doesn't play around with the colors too much, but if I want to add more color, I can add more color steps and see where it takes me. So the more color I have, the better, but obviously the higher I go, the darker it gets, and that's kind of not necessary. So I'm just going to bring the color down using my arrow keys on my keyboard to slowly bring them down to find a space that I like. It's a little faded, but if I bring it up, oh, that's a little darker. It's a little bit better. So right there is pretty good for me. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to deselect, and there I am. It looks pretty good. Now, another way we could do that too, I'm just going to do it again, but this time I'm going to say extend. So what I want to do, I want to grab this cloud structure here. So I'm just going to grab, kind of click around, just clicking and dragging around the cloud. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom out, and I'm just going to click and drag inside the selection and move it over here. Let's see how it works, how it brings it in. Now remember, I do have that layer on top. I could merge them together, but I could do that later. This really isn't interfering with what I'm doing here. So I'm going to press enter, because what I can do also, I could scale it down. If I want to scale it down, hold down shift to keep it proportional. And now I've pressed enter, and oh, didn't want to do that. Okay, with it still selected, I could take a look and see how it blends in. So once again, I can play around with the structure and see how it moves depending on my structure. No, now it's not going to move it because I've already done that little, messed it up a little bit there. That's okay. I'm going to do that again. Click and drag, bring it back over here. I'm going to scale it down a little bit and just press enter. And now I'm going to play around with the structure. And as I play around with the structure, it's going to start to change how it looks. And blend it around a little bit. See, it's moving just ever so slightly as I go. See, just to move it around the structure. But I could also play around with the color and see how the color blends in better. See that? 0 colors. It has a feather on it, but doesn't do a great job. But if I bring that color up, it starts to blend it and change the structure a little bit better. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm just going to deselect, Command D, and look how good a job that did. It's really, really good. I also want to get rid of this little black island here. Now, obviously, I could do ContentAware, or I could just use my clone stamp. Hold down hold down Option, click, make a target, and then just find that area and click it away. Now, because if I'm at 25%, I could have bid 100%, got me there a little bit quicker, which is fine. Now, the last thing I want to do, so the third and last tool of ContentAware is the ContentAware Scale. So I've shown you the ContentAware tool, I've shown you the ContentAware Fill, and now I'm going to show you the ContentAware Scale. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to my canvas size, image, canvas size, and I'm going to make the canvas a little bit bigger. But before I do that, I am going to merge these two together. Select both of them, Command E, and now they're merged. They're part of the one layer. Image, canvas size, and now I'm going to just say, let's say 5,000 width. So I make it a little bit wider. So what I want Photoshop to do is make this background, everything fit into these areas. So to scale it, but ContentAware Scale. So I'm going to go to Edit, and I don't have to have anything selected. I'm just going to go to ContentAware Scale, and now what I can do, it's kind of like almost like a crop. I'm just going to click and drag, and watch what happens. It's extending the background, but it also extends the island a little bit, which isn't horrible, considering the island is not so fixed as if I was going to move a picture of somebody and extend the background of a picture. Well, then it's going to change the picture too. But if I'm not happy with that, I say, well, I don't want the island to move. I just want these areas to move. I'll press enter, leave it alone. Did a good job, and I'm going to do it again. Edit, ContentAware Scale, and I'll do it again. And I'll just scale it this way. And once again, you see it's just moving these seamless areas and keeping the island, I'll move the island just a little bit as is, but that's what I'm looking at. Now, if I want to extend it more this way, I could. If I want to extend it more this way, I can as well, that too. So here's my image. Once again, I could play around with some of that stretching there, but that's okay. And now once again, I was like, oh, the boat's a little bit further than where I want it to be. I can select the boat again with my ContentAware tool, and I'm going to move, not extend, and I'm just going to click and drag and bring it a little bit closer to the island. Press enter, and then there it is. And it did a really good job of that too. So that's the ContentAware tool, the ContentAware Fill, and the ContentAware Scale. So we played around with a few different versions. That's the ContentAware tool. I hope that works out for you as well.